welcome back to the Soft Red Podcast. In this episode, I have on, again, my partner in crime, Mr. Brent Havens from Corona del Sol, and our guest this week, Coach Jamie Nicewander from Kofa High School, 25 years at Kofa. Coach, and Wednesday, you're going to be taking on Perry, 6 p.m. at Perry High School in the 6A semifinal. Coach, congratulations on the season so far. First thing I want to ask you, and I said when I brought you on, you and I first met, I believe, in 2010, and it was the state quarterfinal.
Yeah.
And the Corona del Sol Aztecs took the bus early on a Saturday morning. We show up. And not only do you have the damn school band behind our bench, which I thoroughly enjoyed, number one. Number two, I want to ask you about, and this is going down the history of your program, I want to ask you about those two exceptional players you had on your team. We were talking, he thinks one of them was number 3, and the other one was a little miniature Diego Maradona. Who are those players? And do you know where they're at now? And tell me a little bit about what you remember that day.
I'm gonna have to pick my brain. I'd have to probably pull out some old stats to double, triple check there. We've been blessed at Kofa High School to have a community that just there's so much soccer down here. There really is. We're right on the border, so there's soccer played across the border, right here on the border, back and forth. We're really blessed. So we've been blessed to have a lot of great players come through the program and go on to different places. Back then, if you're talking like little Diego Maradona, I would have to say it's almost guaranteed to be Marcos Garcia. Phenomenal player. Probably 5'2", no, maybe 5'3".
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, left foot, right foot.
Legs like this.
Calf muscles look like just giant steel balls of cannonballs. Man, the kid was explosive. Incredibly, when he dribbled, the ball never left a couple inches from his feet. It was just amazing. Amazing player to watch.
And I think he had it was ridiculous. And Brent's from day one, Brent has always been my statistics guy. And so all of a sudden he's like, Coach, have you seen the goals these guys have scored? And I'm like, I'm not paying attention. And he showed it was like 30 something or 30, 40. It was just that. I'm like, you got two guys. Who was the second guy?
Oh boy, man, you got me on that one.
Okay.
Marcos was paired up at 2 different times. The 2 different guys were both exceptional. We had a great player when I first started coaching back then, Hasael, who was just phenomenal. 6'4", 6'3".
No, that wasn't him. But keep going.
Okay, yeah, he was very quick-footed. We had another smaller player that paired up with Marcos named Danny Flores. Matter of fact, when we played against the Mexican U17 national team, he scored against them. As a matter of fact, great player. He was supposed to go play. Yeah, he was supposed to go play for Phoenix College, and then he got in this horrific accident. He had to be hospitalized for like 6 months. It was pretty bad. And so he never after that got back into soccer, but he was going to go play for Dave Cameron over at Phoenix College back in the day. That was the plan. But the accident it was a horrific accident. So anyway, Marcos Garcia left and went and played at Yavapai under Mike Pantaleon. And then he would come back, play somewhere else for a year, had a chance to go down with a professional team in Mexico, and decided not to take that avenue. And actually, I got to know his family pretty well, and it was his younger brother that I actually took custody of, and I brought to the United States when his father passed away, unfortunately, from cancer. So Marvin Garcia was his brother. Great family.
Sure.
And great young men. So yeah, we spend a lot of time with these kids here. We don't tend to do a lot of the big travel tournaments out of town and stuff. So a lot of the soccer we play year round is I have a club I created here where a lot of my same Kofa guys play with me year round.
Yes.
In that club, we play along the border, across the border. We have them play up. So when they're like 14, sometimes 13, they're playing the local men's leagues already by then.
Right.
And then we take our lickings there, and then hopefully it teaches us how to give a lickings later, which is how it works sometimes, it seems.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Brent, did you have something to say?
No, you've always had really great players.
Yes.
I actually went, and this year I watched your game against Mesa High.
Oh, man, that was a rough one, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't your best game, but I was really impressed with, I think it's your right wing. Is that number 3, Augustine?
Yes, AJ Tumbaga, one of my favorite players.
And then on the other side, you had the big kid, number 7, Andres Anaya.
Yeah. Well, Andres Anaya is a smaller forward. He plays up top for us. But we have number 27. You might be thinking of him. 27, 6'2", plays on my left wing as a
Yeah.
forward. Yeah, he's been very generous with us. I say it that way because he has a phenomenal opportunity right now. He's gonna have a contract with a third division team in Mexico already, and he's
Wow.
waiting actually to finish the season with us first. And then he's gonna have a contract for no money value whatsoever, and then this way he'll still keep it amateur status and everything.
Wow.
But he's been very kind. He's a hardcore Kofa King kid, and he wants to go play collegiate soccer. And so but he's already got interest down in Mexico with professional teams. So yeah, he can put on a show. Let me tell you, man, the kid's got some
Yeah,
amazing
they
footwork.
had some good moments there. I know you didn't come out
Yeah,
on the top, but you had a good run
yeah.
so far. But
Well,
more
it's just
importantly, let's talk about what it's like to have your son playing for you.
it's nice. He's my last son to come through the program. So I have four boys of my own biologically. I consider the Garcia young man. I consider him family. So I say five boys, but and I have a daughter who's 8, going on 18. She thinks. Um, it's what happens when you have all these boys in the house and you finally get that daughter.
Yes.
She runs me ragged. I'm gonna tell you right now. I just cannot tell her no. It's so bad. But yeah, it is great. Giago is my last son coming through the program, and he plays as one of my center backs. And yeah, it's fantastic. He's my only son to play as a defender. One of my sons is a goalkeeper. He went off to Yavapai. And then Gavin was a forward for us. He was a striker back in the day when we played Corona del Sol often. And then Tiernan, my son graduated 2 years ago. He played as a 9 for us. And matter of fact, I gotta give him a shot. He led the state in goals that year for 5A soccer.
Yeah.
He's
So,
natural left footer.
so let's talk really quick about Tiernan. I know Coach Dave Cameron and I speak often. And again, he's again is as neurotic as that guy is. He
I
again
love Dave.
he does. He's he was an inspiration to me in doing this podcast, and so
Yeah.
I really reached out to him, and we had a chance to, he actually stopped over and was sitting down on the couch right here, and just kind of we chopped it up about podcasts. And just recently, he had invited me to Phoenix Rising against Phoenix College, and they had a
Ah,
closed door scrimmage. Now,
yeah.
and he said, "Hey Dan, it would be great if you would come out and do your podcast from there." And I had all intention to, but the flu kind of went through my family the past 2 previous weekends, and so I couldn't get out. But
Oh man.
talk to me about Tieran's experience. And I know he was excited because I've got these monster goal scorers, and I'm playing them at defender.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
he had said, he goes, "I've got Arizona's 3 previous leading goal scorers
Yeah.
all playing defense for me." Tell me about how that scrimmage went for your son, and then you kind of like what your thoughts were.
I didn't get a chance to go up. Unfortunately, my wife did, of course, and the rest of my family did. But I stayed here, and we had Kofa practice that day.
Okay.
So unfortunately, it's the responsibility during the high school season. I had
Well,
I love
quickly go
I
get
love
your
watching my
wife,
own
and we'll get
son,
her
but I had
thought.
to work with other sons. So, but he played center back, and he loves playing center back as well. Yeah, Tiernan just loves to play. He loves the game. He had some experience previously playing center back, but not when he was a freshman. And so he went from playing center back at freshman year to his sophomore year as offensive player of the year for the region. And of course, he's always been a goal scorer. He's fast. He's big. He's 6'7". In high
Six
school,
what?
he's 6'7". Yeah, he's six
Wow.
foot seven. He's naturally left-footed, but he's also thank you to Mike Pantaleone. Very lucky to call Mike a friend. And Mike had a talk with Tiernan, and he encouraged him strongly. He said, "You need to move to your right. You need to be able to make that a threat, so you're not as predictable." And Tiernan took it to heart. And that season, that was his senior year, as a matter of fact. That season, he scored as many goals with his left foot as he did with his right foot. And that was
Wow.
all due to Mike, give him that suggestion. It's different when it comes from somebody else. When it comes from dad, of course, it doesn't matter. When Mike Pantaleone tells a kid something, let me tell you, that kid's going to listen if he's got any brains. So,
Yeah.
That's right.
and he did. So, Tiernan went off and was at Sonoma State. And then, unfortunately, Sonoma State University canceled all their athletic programs.
Oh, wow.
Everything: basketball, soccer, softball,
Correct.
you name it. So, Tiernan it was a wild situation where school had already been going for almost a week. And Tiernan had to, dad, he's like, "Dad, I didn't come here to get a business degree. I can get a business degree anywhere. I'm
Right.
here to play soccer.
Right.
I'm here to play. And if they're not going to have the program, I don't want to waste another semester here." He loved the coach. He loves Marcus and the Zemer family. Loves
Right.
them. Both the
Right.
coaches there, both the Zimmer brothers. Tiernan really loved those coaches. That's why he chose that. We had some great offers from other places, full rides. We had some interest from some big D1. We
Right.
would have paid some money as part of that deal, but I mean, they were phenomenal schools. But Tiernan clicked with the
Yeah.
Zimmer brothers, and he
Yeah.
really wanted to be there. And in fact, when when the whole thing fell through with Sonoma, I remember I told him, I said, listen, I can get you a place, I think, pretty quickly. He said, no, don't do anything yet. He says, I want to talk to coach. I want to make sure coach and them are okay. And I mean, that's really how he felt about the coaches. I really liked him a lot. He felt like he was growing there pretty well. He's learning what he needed to learn. And that's what he's all about. So,
That's
yeah, so he got out of there. Dave Cameron swooped in and grabbed him. So,
of course he did. Well, I'll tell you what, Coach. I'm happy. I'm happy for you again to have that opportunity to coach your son. I know I have that maybe a possible opportunity right now. I just help at his practices right now, but my youngest plays, and then I have another son.
How's your boys? How old are they?
I'll have one that'll be a freshman next year in 8th grade, and then 6th grade right now.
Awesome.
So
Big high school together. That's great.
I know. I know. I know not only the good doctor over here, but there's a handful of other people, including my wife, saying maybe you need to get back to Corona. So we may be having you at the in Tempe again. So
well, happy wife, happy life. Okay,
hey,
so don't forget that. All right.
she said, I don't know what's worse, you being at home here complaining that it's not good enough, or you being gone and being obsessed again. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's get back to you really quick here. Let's talk about your season so far at Kofa. Again, 11-3-1 currently right now. You've got 11 wins, good wins, 2 losses to San Luis. We'll talk about that. And then an open loss to Mesa. But so far, what is it about your team? How's the season? It started off, you went to Oceanside, Frank Zimmerman's tournament in
great
California.
Tournament. Great tournament.
Talk to me about the season so far and where you kind of started, where you've gone, and then where you're at now.
We actually started this season. I took this piece of advice from another coach I admire again, Mike Pantaleone. Jamie, try to get an early tournament as soon as you can. It's a great chance for kids to bond and work out some kinks before the season starts. And I've done that. Every year I try to get a tournament before we have our first region games that count for state, or any games that count for state for AIA.
Right.
And this year we had a tournament. It was a great tournament. We had 4 games in that tournament, which was a good way to kind of warm up for the season. We won all 4 of those games. You won't see those scores posted there though on AIA for some reason, but they're on Max Preps.
Okay.
So we won those games. It was a good opener for us.
Who'd you play against?
Gosh, we had like Thatcher High School. We had a bunch of schools in there that we played.
Just
we never
games.
get to play. They were just games. It's just a different flavor, right? Different vibe. And for us, that's important because so many of the teams down here look the same, right? So many of them play the same kind of style, and so a lot of the same formations. So we really think it's important to get out and face different types of teams in order to be ready for state playoffs later. And whether that's win or lose against them, it's just you're facing something different. And I think it's important for the growth of the student athletes to be able to experiment and during a game, in a true game situation, say, okay, this is what they have, right? This team's very athletic. Maybe they have a certain amount of skill in certain areas. How can we counter that? How can we best exploit that? I think that's a great thing for kids to figure out. Because a lot of times as a coaches, we want to act like the field generals, right? But the reality is it's great for the kids to figure that out for their development. And I think that helps them in the long run. So, by the way, you're glitching. You're glitching now.
I'm glitching now. Shoot.
But that's
well,
okay.
I think the sound is still good. And so I want to agree with you. And I know from my perspective, and I think you'll agree, right to that last point you made, to anybody listening, I think we want to control every moment the best we can. But the magic comes at the end of the season when you're not really controlling. You're just kind of giving them the information, and I can't do anything. And that's like that after the 15th year you figured out.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think it takes some time. It takes some confidence too, in seeing how things, finish up. I have, seeing how things kind of roll out after a while, it's kind of like bacon, or cooking something, right? Well, once you bake that cake a certain number of times, you're like, you know what? I know that if I put this in with a certain amount of time and I bake this a certain amount, let's a cup of sugar, a cup of flour, whatever magic ingredients you want to throw in that magic cookie, whatever it is, it's going to come out this way. And so I just need to be patient and give it time to cook.
Yep.
And that only comes, I think, with some experience. Because too many times, as a young coach, me myself included, we want to experiment too much sometimes with things, or we want to try to control everything, and you gotta let it go. The stake with taking losses. I'll go a step further on that and say that our off season here, because we don't travel out of town and play tournaments, our off season here we play up in men's league. So last season, the group of young men that I have right now, almost all of them were on a men's league team. We went down and played in San Luis. We're playing guys from across the border, on this side of the border, AWC players, you name it. And we won one game, one match. So we won one match.
Very learning. A great learning opportunity.
But the kids stayed together. They stayed together. 4 months later, men's league season starts up again. We're facing the same teams. We only lost one match all season.
Oh, wow.
In that regular season. And we finished first in points at the end of the season. Made it down to the final championship match on top of that. And that's against teams that are all much older than us.
Right.
And that's just a testament to not me, but a testament to the kids willing to stick it out and grind.
Yep.
They have to be willing to grind, going winning a tournament somewhere that's supposedly high exposure, and it's on beautiful grass fields and turf fields, and we don't get that here. I mean, I took a video of my field today, gopher holes all over it. I mean, it's dirt. It's dirt.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have us. So
talk about, you went to, and again, you and I had a chance. We visited on the phone real quick Sunday morning, and I said, Coach, hey, I've got the game. I've got the call with Chris Harris and the NFHS Network on Wednesday. And talk to me about, you went to California. You played some of the same teams as Perry, so you've got some like-for-like competition. Talk about what you saw and the experience at Oceanside Tournament.
It's a great tournament. Frank Zimmerman puts on a quality tournament. The facilities are top-notch. All the fields that we play on, whether they're grass or turf, are always great facilities. There's always a trainer there as well, which is nice, because we have high school matches sometimes, but that's not the case. So over in California, Frank Zimmerman does a great job taking care of the team there. I can't say enough about him. He's a class guy. There's a reason why it's such a great reputation. Well-deserved. And he puts on this tournament every year we've gone to for many years now. We won a game, lost a game, and tied a game there. But we had a chance to watch Perry and play against two of the same teams that we played against, which was nice. In the end, whatever we noticed about Perry or any other team we play, Brophy, like we had Saturday, or any other team, it comes down to execution on game day, though. You know this as well as I do as coaches. We can say, listen, this is all we got to do. We just got to do this one or two things, and we got. But that's you're working with young adults, and there's a learning curve sometimes. So sometimes that comes out right. Sometimes and sometimes we don't get it right either as coaches. So you look for some things, some commonalities though in games, and you try to get video to look at teams. But in the end, I've always been a firm believer that you have to play your game. And yeah, you want to be aware of some things, like maybe a team has like a trick play or something you need to be aware of. But in the end, I'm a firm believer that you gotta dance with the girl you took to the dance.
Yep.
And you got to go with what works for your team.
So speaking of that girl, talk to me about what is it? What's unique about this team? Again, 25 years at Kofa. What is unique about this team that you can take into Wednesday's match? If you get a victory Wednesday's match, you're now in the 6A state championship. Have you been to the 6A state championship before?
I have not.
What's the farthest you've got, Coach?
No, semifinal a couple times. So been to semifinal. We played Brophy before in a semifinal, as a matter of fact. We played some teams, Tucson as well. I want to say Magnet.
So what is it about this team then that leads you to say, hey, listen, I like what I'm bringing to Perry Wednesday night, 6 o'clock at Perry High School?
I think it's what we showed against Brophy on Saturday, and that's just a willingness to grind. This team has some great talent. Obviously, we have some key players that can produce, but we also have some other kids out there that are the unsung heroes. Your partner there had mentioned, Tumbaga, AJ Tumbaga. Great defensive midfielder and just very physical. He's a stout kid. He's a great anchor man in the midfield. You know, you don't hear that term used very often anymore. He's a great anchor man in the midfield. I've always felt that was his best position for us.
Nice.
And so, you know, we've got, you know, key players up top as well. You know, we got some strikers, of course, that score goals and things like that. But we have some sleepers in there as well that are kids that have come up big in other games for us. You know, against Cibola, scoring in the last like 45 seconds. You know, things like that where they believe they can be successful. You know, it's interesting because we had 2 losses to San Luis. Okay, and the first loss we had to San Luis was a PK goal. Our player had been bumped from behind, and he falls forward into a ball, touches the ball with his hand as the ball's coming towards him, and that was ruled as a PK. So they scored a PK, they win the game. That was at Kofa's home field, and then away we were winning actually 1-0, and then Lionel got pulled down and he got an injury out of it. Interestingly enough, there's no call on it, and he had to come out of the game. And he was out for 10 days.
Oh boy.
Yeah, yeah, and he was out for that Mesa game, as a matter of fact. Let me take that back. He's out for the Cibola match that took us down to the wire. And then in the Mesa game, that was actually his first game back.
Yeah.
And he had practiced once with us in the
Wow.
last like 10, 12 days after that. So obviously he wasn't in shape, and we weren't clicking up top whatsoever. It was very little chemistry. You could see it. Although we had individual talent on the field, we didn't have that chemistry back.
Yeah.
We also had 1 or 2 other players who had injuries. We had a bunch of guys sick. I think we had 5 guys. 2 days before that game, we had 5 starters practicing. I mean, it was wild. You just got hit by a couple things at once, and then the day before the game, we were forced to cancel practice. They have an air quality thing down here for our district that's not new, but it's definitely interpreted interestingly. And so we had to cancel practice. So we didn't get a chance to have that starting lineup back before the game, and you could see it. We were lacking, you know, connectivity. We weren't transitioning well whatsoever. You could absolutely see it. There's no connection to our defense or our midfield.
Coach, I want to ask you about that. I could tell that you weren't clicking in that Mesa game, definitely.
Oh yeah.
And then let's talk about this. I'd like to get your thoughts on this playoff format. You know, you guys lose in that open bracket and then get pushed to the 6A bracket, and then your first game is against South Mountain and you win by forfeit.
Yeah.
So give me your thoughts on the open bracket and the new playoff format and that first game against South Mountain.
You know, okay, so my thoughts on the open format is great. I've always been a firm believer. In the end,
get it right.
I don't want to water things. I don't want to water down, but I honestly believe that having open format is a good thing, because and too many people say, well, it's watered down if you have more than one. But you know what, though? In the end, let's be honest. A university or a college, and I've signed over 80 kids now, okay? They're not going to say, oh, that kid won a state championship, I want him. They're looking at individual players, right? They're not signing a team. They're looking for that individual player. They're either going to need a left back, they're going to need a center mid. They're going to need a defensive-minded center mid like AJ, or they're going to need an offensive-minded center mid like Antonio Andrade, who had a phenomenal assist against Brophy on Saturday. They're looking for specific qualities in players, and if they've won a tournament somewhere, that doesn't. I don't think that it shouldn't come into play. Their own professional judgment of that player, watching them actually touch a ball and what they do off the ball, that is what should determine if that kid moves on. So I just believe that if they want to add another level for a state title, rock on, good. Yeah. Another school can win a title, fantastic. That's great. Plus, I think it also helps. I mean, look at Washington, right? Washington's 5A. Now they're going to be in a final, right? I mean, that's a team we know well. We played against them last couple of years in our region. They were in our region the last 2 years when we were in 5A.
Coach, talk about them right now. Again, they're going up against a good quality. Coach Havens and I have seen Desert Vista play 3 times this season. They're a quality side. I've looked at some of Washington's scheduled games, and to me, it could be the type of game where Washington could win 2-1, 1-0, or Washington can lose 7-0.
Yeah, I agree.
Where do you see Saturday's Open Championship match looking like, with Washington being so, again, like you said, we're familiar with them, versus a powerhouse of a program like Desert Vista?
They're both good programs. I've spent more time with the with Washington. Obviously, they were in our region the last 2 years, and great coach there. And he's always got some players that they're attack minded, obviously, with a lot of flair, right?
Yes.
I also got to watch him against San Luis. I was there at that game when they played San Luis. They took San Luis to PKs. I have to tell you, when Washington was down a man, they got down a man 4 minutes into the second half. So they played 36 minutes of the second half, and they went to double
Plus
overtime.
OT.
Yes, plus OT, 2 10-minute overtimes. Okay, and they were down a man that entire time, and they had better chances to win that game in regulation time. It was impressive. Yeah, it was very impressive, and that's against San Luis, which is a great side, great team. Been down to the final the last 2-3 years in a row against Perry, as a matter of fact.
Right, and I've called both those games, and it's like your heart breaks for those kids. And again, it's you again. I mean, you're just talking about just your field conditions in Yuma, and you talk about the San Luis boys, and it was Misael Mesa. My God, the heart of that kid is different, and I think he went to
Camilo.
Correct. And so again, I don't know if San Luis had that player. I don't know if
Last year they did.
what he could have been, but again, you've got Washington that beats them. Washington goes up against Desert Vista. I can't wait for the game. It's going to be such a. I'm excited for that, Coach. I'm excited to watch you Wednesday night. I will be there early over at Perry High School. I'll probably be there close to 5 p.m. So as soon as I get there, I'll come down and I'll find you. My partner, Chris Harris, he does a phenomenal job. I hope everybody down in Yuma is tuned into the NFHS network so we could watch this game.
Absolutely.
Coach, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know Coach Havens and I, we've talked when we sat down and we said, hey, these are a list of, I'm not kidding, we came up with a list of 30, 40 individuals, and you were one of the guys. We're like, hey, we got to get Kofa on, and we got to get Kofa-Jaime on. And so I said, perfect. And again, just the way the season went for the podcast, we were just keeping who's on top. And it just so happened, again, our connections, dating back to 2010.
Yeah, wow,
fantastic, man. I mean, you're a wonderful conversation, and I'm rooting for you on Wednesday. Perry's a tough out. Again, they've got
great class coach.
Yes.
Great program. Absolutely. Well,
so, and again, I'll say this just for the for everybody out there. If you like what you're hearing, everybody hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment and anything we talked about. What your thoughts are on any of the matches coming up. I know myself, I'm going to be at Pinnacle High School tomorrow night for the Corona del Sol girls against the Pinnacle Pioneers for the 6A semifinal. And then on Wednesday, I'll be at Perry High School. Saturday afternoon, it starts Saturday morning. I've got 4 state championship calls. So hopefully you're one of them, Coach. So anyway, thank you so much. I know you've been